Okay, I'm training for the Hall of Fame Marathon in Canton, Ohio. It's April 20 something, and it's coming up. And when you get reasonably close to a marathon, you got to start doing 20 milers. Most training plans have you do a 20 miler or two in order to make sure you're sort of ready in an endurance sense to complete the marathon. And my first 20 miler of this training plan was 2 Sundays ago, and it was bitter cold. It was snowing. It was, the wind chill I think was below zero. The actual temperature was in the single digits. Really, really difficult weather. And as I'm getting ready, putting my gear on, lacing up my shoes, I'm watching the snow fall. I can hear the wind whistling. I know it's going to be a brutal run. But I knew I had to get it started. And that's basically where you are as well with this research essay, is that you're just getting ready, you're lacing up, so to speak. And so I thought I'd make a screencast that gave you some tips, some suggestions, some attitudes, some orientations to consider as you begin that process. Because by the time you're done writing this research essay, I want you, of course, to have passed it, but I want you to see this work as a badge of honor. So many students learn a lot through the process of undergoing something tough like this 10-page paper that has so many distinct parameters and aspects to it. And by the time you're done, I want you to be proud of your work. My dad likes to see how the weather beats me up in the winter and in the summer for that matter. So I have to take a picture of myself after particularly grueling runs. And so here's what I got to text my dad after that 20 miler I was just telling you about. Okay, covered in frost. All right, from eyelashes to beard. Okay, so anyway, I want you to be that proud. Your intro section. The tips for beginning at the beginning, which is often so difficult for writers to do. That cursor, you got nothing there. It's a blank slate. You just have to get started. How do I suggest you get started? Tell me a story. It's a 10-page paper. You have time to engage your reader's imagination. You have this opportunity to fire up, all of their sort of their mental senses, I guess, if that makes sense. Get them, thinking about your topic in a way that is highly visual, and you will grab readers right from the start. And there's really nothing like it. Tell a good story. Think about an image to describe to begin your paper. So what sorts of images would help to illustrate the paper that you're going to be writing? So often my best suggestion for these advanced classes is to start with an image and work yourself backwards from it. So visual language helps you accomplish that, but also you just want to put yourself in the mindset of your reader. What image do I want to begin with? You want to start with the weather. That's not a bad idea. You think about books that begin in interesting ways. Often the writers spend a lot of time with setting, so time of day, weather, that sort of thing. Instead of that bland old, in today's society, there are many different approaches to technology. Ever since the dawn of man, blah, blah, blah. You have an opportunity with your intro to put a face to your topic. So I often think in humanistic terms, just that's my orientation. So think about what sort of a face you would start on. Think about what sort of a landscape you would begin on. And from there, that storytelling technique can draw readers in a way that engages not only their logic, in some senses, but also their emotions. Okay, you can also provide context. People tend to be history buffs, and you also want people to be interested in your topic in terms of what got us to today. Okay, so what is the history of your topic? Always a good idea to provide context. You want to define key terms. If you start throwing around ideas like technology or the media, or even students or people, those topics, those phrases are so vague, they don't tell me anything. What do you mean by technology? Everything's technology. The shoes you're wearing, they help you, they modify your body because they keep your feet from getting cut. Okay, technology is everything. It's everything we've ever made. Be much more narrow. So what do you mean by technology? What do you mean by the media? My goodness, there's so much media out there, from print sources, magazines and newspapers. Or do you mean online sources? Do you mean, sort of clickbait journalism? You're allowed to call media out for whatever it is. Okay, a good intro also, and this is really important, creates a sense of urgency. More on that in a moment. Okay, so look at these images I'm going to walk you through really quickly. Okay, this is a photo taken from Mardi Gras not too long ago. A lot of you are writing about distractions and attention spans and people's attachment to technology. So take a look at this picture. Maybe, I don't know how clear it's going to be on the screencast. Look at all the stuff that's going on in this picture. And look at these two people. look at this guy and look at her and how they're missing out on all this stuff. I mean, they're missing out on these bubbles, for Pete's sake. So think about describing that story instead of just saying people are distracted by their cell phones sometimes, right? Think about all the stuff that's going on in this picture. Or maybe something like this, if a lot of you are writing about, people being more obsessed with themselves and less engaged in the world around them. Oh, look at this. We have Botticelli, one of the most famous paintings of all time, right? Birth of Venus. There it is, and there are these two people more worried about making funny faces than maybe looking at the art. So I go to museums all the time, and I take pictures of certain paintings that I like for my wife, or if she's not with me. But so many people take selfies at museums. So if I were writing about selfie culture, I would write about all the people I see more obsessed with getting a good picture of themselves and a cathedral full of art than they are about taking in the art itself. That really fires me up, and if I were reading that paper, I would get fired up as well. Okay, what else could I tell you? Oh, I threw this in. The holidays aren't for everybody. There's my daughter and Santa and my very, very happy son sitting on Santa's lap. So, age making a difference. You can think about the development of kids, that sort of thing. Just an excuse to share a terribly cute picture of my darling kids. All right, back to this idea of urgency that I left off on. Start a fire with your paper, okay? You need to have that controlling idea. I'm not going to say thesis statement anymore, but I like this phrase here, controlling idea of your research essay. Okay, before you get into your argument, what's the controversy behind your topic? Okay, what I mean is, what makes it worthy of our attention? That usually leads to two important questions. Who's at risk and what's at stake? I apologize for this typo right here. You've probably already spotted it. Okay, so who's at risk and what is at stake? So you need to be fired up. If you don't care about your topic, why should I care about your topic? So a good intro does this very effectively. It explains what makes this topic worthy of our attention, of our passions. Okay, you need to distinguish your topic from all the other topics out there. What makes yours so much better than all the other boring topics? Why are you jumping into this debate? That's what I'm asking you to do, is to jump into a published debate and add your 2 cents. So it's up to you to explain the stakes. All right, who's at risk? What's at stake? Okay, sometimes that stake is very emotional. Sometimes it is, this is a very famous self-portrait by a French painter named Courbet. You can see that his eyes, you can see he's very engaged with his own subject, that he's got a lot of personal fire to it, that the passion comes from within. Okay, and a lot of you are picking topics that you have independent, sort of concerns about. Okay, sometimes the passion comes from the vulnerable populations that you identify. This is another very famous painting by this is maybe my most favorite painting of all time. It's by J.M.W. Turner. It's about a slave ship, and it's you can see people in chains drowning. It's about this slave ship. I'm not going to bore you with it. That crashed off of London. In the Atlantic Ocean, not too far from London, and in the process of trying to save themselves, the owners of the slaves threw all the slaves off of the boat, and people watched them drown, including the painter of this painting, J.M.W. Turner. And so this is the beginning of Impressionism. All the use of red. You can see how angry he is about a state of affairs that doesn't affect him personally. He was a white guy, he was rich, he never really had to care about slavery, and many people didn't during his time, but he cared very deeply about it. It made him very angry, the state of affairs. So sometimes you have the personal passion where it comes straight from you, and sometimes you observe something and it ignites that passion in you. So think about where your passion for your topic comes from. Okay, and you also think about who are the vulnerable populations and the risks they're vulnerable to. So are we losing some essential part of ourselves by looking at our cell phones too much? Are we missing out on the world, on nature? Okay, what do we stand to lose? If some of you are writing about how technology impacts our health. So if we're losing our ability to be healthy, to enjoy life to its fullest, explain the stakes. You have to make me care about your topic, and no better place to do that than the intro. Okay? There are some intro traps that I need you to avoid. I did say, that the history of your topic is interesting, but in a very limited sense. Please avoid providing too much background info. I don't need the entire history of the personal computer. You don't have to start with the ENIAC, the computers that took up entire rooms. Start off with maybe like the iPhone. If you're going to write about phones, that really kind of got us down this path that we're on. Or if you want to write about being overly connected, maybe the birth of the broadband internet. That back when we had dial-up, back in the Stone Ages, getting on the internet was a very laborious process, and broadband made that laboriousness disappear. Okay, so try to avoid starting off your intro at the beginning of time. I don't like a bunch of questions at the beginning, especially questions I can answer easily, or even worse yet, questions that you answer easily. Just avoid questions altogether. I think they're just a bad habit. Some teachers say that they really like them. I'm not one of those teachers. Don't delay getting to your argument too long. If you look and you're still writing your intro and it's like page 5, it's time to get to your argument. It's time to get to that controlling idea and that persuasive agenda. Otherwise, you're just writing a report, and I do not want a report. Okay, and some other traps or things that you need to be thinking of. Your reader, in other words, me, I'm not dumb. You can count on me to be smart. Okay, I don't know how smart I am, but I'm going to be smart enough on your topic. And even if I don't know anything about it, if I don't know about, for instance, I'm going to be reading a paper on manual milking. I'm trying to get smarter on that topic, so you can assume that I'm not dumb. All right, I need you to explain complex ideas only to me. Okay, sometimes we get caught writing in circles trying to explain every little corner of a topic. Try to avoid doing that. Okay, again, I have an operational knowledge of your topic. I can keep up with you. Okay, so don't be afraid to move at a brisk pace. Your reader, he, me, I'm interested in how you use sources more than the sources themselves. So I'll return to this idea. Don't overly rely on your sources is my point. Don't think this should be a quote dump. Okay. So your secondary sources, I've been at this game long enough that I can actually remember sending students to the library in order to retrieve sources. We used to have whole classes that would be in the library at Bowling Green before everybody had computers in their dorms. We'd have to go to the library, all of us together, to find sources. Those days are long gone, and I really kind of miss them, because those days watching students go into the stacks and try to find good articles, back in the microfiche and microfilm, it was fun. It was fun to watch students retrieve information. You are, I don't know, are you luckier or are you less lucky? I'm not sure, but you can do all this stuff online now. So just remember that your sources need to be current, and I think 7 or so years that's when currency kind of, especially when you're writing about technology, the idea of currency becomes really important. So your sources should largely come from the last 7 or 8 years. They should come from a range of places, a range of publications. If they all come from the same place, that's a danger. I've talked about this already in a previous screencast. Make sure they're credible and reliable. If you can't find, for instance, the name of the person who wrote a source, that's, of course, the reddest of red flags. And then clearly used by you for a clearly explained purpose clearly. You understand? Put your sources to work. Don't just let them hang there. Don't just assume I'll do with a statistic you provide, that I'll do what you expect me to do with it. That's not my job. It's your job to put the stats to work, to put the sources to work. So clearly explain their purpose. Okay, so many of you have lots of really good secondary sources. Make sure that you're using them in ways that are clearly explained for the purpose, the argumentative agenda of your paper. Okay, and here you all are, if you can see this picture on the screencast. You're out in the field, okay? Here's your interview, here's your questionnaire and survey, or here's your observation, here's your transcript, and here is the subject you're studying. This is all you, okay? You're just not underwater, I don't think. So you're all conducting primary research, and best of luck with that. Please let me know if I can help you. But let's remember a couple of things about primary research. Use it in specific ways. Please be more than the story of your interview. If you just have, if the middle 5 pages of your 10-page essay are just the story of your interview, your paper's not going to do very well. Don't, and this is true for secondary sources too, quote sparingly, no longer than 4 lines long. Never, never, never longer than 4 lines. And then, again, be clear in its purpose. All right, and then finally, you can always expand your paper if you get stuck. If you get stuck at page 6, where am I going to go from here? Start speculating about causes or proposing solutions. Evaluate and criticize, and especially, so many of you are already doing this, your counter arguments. Use counter arguments, okay? Another piece of advice, just keep writing. Take what you got and make it better. Writing is always rewriting. There are no bad ideas early on, and you'd be amazed at how many times a dumb idea can easily transform into an interesting idea. In the stylistic sense, mix up your sentence structures, use a sophisticated vocabulary. Your language should match the complexity of your ideas. There, you have complex ideas, so therefore your language should be complex. Okay, be interesting at all times. Don't be boring. Be interesting. All right. So as you're staring off there's you. Okay, this is Salvador Dali. There's your topic off in the distance. How do you make that topic real? How do you bring it to your reader? Okay, think deeply about that. And as always, if you have any questions, you have any concerns, you want some help, I'm always eternally an email or a bonfire away.